What is going on, guys? My name is John and welcome back to yet another video. Tax return season ended recently, which means if you have a job, odds are you got some money put back into your pocket. This is a great time to catch up on bills, find a new hobby, or maybe invest for even a larger return. Or if you're me, it means, hey, what unnecessary thing can I buy now? And that's exactly what I did. I upgraded my old 22-inch TV that I had in my apartment living room to a 50-inch 4K smart TV and upgraded my PC. Because I've never had a 4K TV, I've never played games at such a high resolution. I ended up finding out that some game emulators can render games in 4K, and I immediately thought of what Pokemon would look like. Today, we're going to see how different Pokemon games look in 4K. To begin, we're going to take a look at 5 different Pokemon games from a few different platforms. For reference, we're going to be playing GameCube, Wii, and yes, even 3DS games with both the Dolphin and Citra emulators. The resolutions that we're going to be comparing are the native or original resolution, 1080p 60, and 4K 60. The video was obviously rendered in 4K 60, so if you have a 4K resolution monitor or TV, you'll see the best results. For those with lower resolutions, you might not see a huge difference with some resolution changes. I tried to compare games that were somewhat different from each other, so if you don't see your favorite game, it's probably because it looks like one of these. We're going to go in chronological order, starting all the way back in 2003 with Pokemon Channel. Yes, I know, this is barely a Pokemon game, or even a game at all, but this was the first Pokemon GameCube game aside from Pokemon Box, which is somehow even less of a game than this one. There are many games that you can play, but that is much farther into the game than I played. The game starts out with a message from Professor Oak asking you to watch the Pichu Bros anime, which I believe is a large portion of the game. Obviously, because there is nothing to be rendered here, it doesn't look any different. However, the intro shows a great starting point of how the Dolphin emulator renders out 3D models at different resolutions. Objects, including the Pokemon, look a lot more sharp, but things that don't render, like text boxes and images, still have that pixelated look. We'll see a lot more of this in the upcoming games. Okay, let's go to an actual game on the GameCube. How about Pokemon Colosseum? This game was the very first side series game with a full-length storyline. Just like Pokemon Channel, we can see improvements straight away. At the title screen, there are a lot of images, but if you look in the back, you can see that the pillars look a lot smoother in both 1080p and 4K. The game starts with a cutscene, which does a great job of showing how badly these cutscenes have aged. However, when the game begins, it looks fantastic. The background looks crisp, the edges aren't jagged, and the character models have a lot more life to them. The first battle in the game looks very clean. Although there isn't really anything in the background, the character and Pokemon models do justice for how different the models look with the resolutions. Aside from some small texture glitches, this looks as good as a GameCube game can look. I was going to cover Pokemon XD, but considering that it's the same art style, it didn't seem too necessary to go deep into seeing the differences. If you have Dolphin and want to replay these games, I'd highly suggest to try them all at a higher resolution. For our next test, we're going to move to the Wii to play Pokemon Battle Revolution. Even for its time, this game looked amazing. Because the current main series games at the time didn't offer 3D, this was a nice refresher when you wanted to play online battles with better quality. I must say that in my opinion, this game has the greatest improvement so far. Obviously, when you compare 480p to 4K, it's going to be quite a dramatic difference, but the level of quality on this is amazing. All the Pokemon are very lifelike, and if this game was released now instead of a decade ago, it would give whatever the Switch game is going to look like a run for its money. A great example is the quick Poketopia water scene when you first enter the reception desk. Everything is shaded very well, and it makes me upset that the Wii hid all of this unused potential behind its lack of hardware capability. Battle animations are very visible and detailed, and even the backdrops to the stages have rendered life to them. I honestly hope that the Pokemon Switch release battles compare to this quality, because this is what I'm anticipating the next game will look like considering the improvement in hardware over time. Next, we're moving on to a much different style, Pokepark 2 Wonders Beyond. This was a spin-off series game released in 2011. Considering that this was the last Pokemon game on the Wii, we can only assume that it will look similar, if not better, than Pokemon Battle Revolution. When it comes to character textures, they're all very sharp in both 1080p and 4K. This one was pretty hard to tell the difference between, and overall I think it's still a massive improvement over its native resolution. The first section of the game doesn't have a lot of detailed backgrounds, but I tried to find an area with the most detail to compare to. As you can see, the resolutions compare pretty well, but I think a large majority of that is due to how simple a lot of the areas are. There really isn't much more to showcase here because this is the entire game. So let's move on. Finally, we're going to finish with the newest installment of the Pokemon series, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon. To those who are active on YouTube, I'm sure you've seen these before and probably know how everything looks. But when you see the difference in quality side by side, it's honestly pretty unbelievable. If you didn't know, the 3DS's native resolution is around 240p for the top screen. If you thought Battle Revolution was different, this is just ridiculous. They honestly look like two different games. Wild battles now come to life, and having the ability to play this game on a big screen is both more enjoyable and gets me more hyped for the next release. To get a detailed look, you can see the rendered Pokemon in the Pokédex, and Lunala looks much better in 4K. One thing that some of you might note is the giant lines that shape Lunala, as well as pretty much everything else in the game when you increase the render resolution. These can be removed, but when I tried, it didn't work properly. Here are some of the models without the lines. This is obviously the best outcome, but I'm still very comfortable playing the game with the lines. If you play it on a large enough TV, it doesn't look as noticeable from a distance. Overall, I think that each game showed massive improvement over its native resolutions. In my opinion, I think that some of the differences were a lot more noticeable than others. For each game I chose being in their own kind of category, I think that their 4K variants really showcase both the Pokemon and the emulator's potential. I'm very curious as to what ones you think look the best. Pokemon Channel offered a pretty decent improvement, but considering that it wasn't a great game to choose, not much changed. I rate this improvement a 5 out of 10. Pokemon Colosseum really surprised me. The sharpness of even just the beginning of the game really proved that it would fare as a really solid remaster if they chose to do so in the future. Some battle animations didn't improve very well, but it's still a welcome improvement. I'll rate this one a 7 out of 10. Pokemon Battle Revolution blew me away. Now, I'm not sure if it's the nostalgia factor to me, but it makes me want to replay the game because of how much it's advanced now. There was one graphical bug with the trainer IDs, which I did fix, but other than that, it's the best it can be. I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10. Pokepark 2 Wonders Beyond showed a very similar improvement to Battle Revolution when it came to sharpening edges, but in a few areas the backgrounds didn't have anything to render, which makes it kinda hard to compare. However, when it came to character models, the difference was very clear. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Lastly, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon. Although I knew long in advance what they'd look like, I was still thoroughly pleased. The quality is excellent, and I love the idea of playing it on the couch with a controller. The only downside is that the in-game battle backgrounds aren't rendered and they're more like a 360 image, which still leaves them pixelated. I'll still give this improvement a 9 out of 10. Alright, and that's going to do it for today's video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you liked and what you didn't like about the changes, and I'm curious to see how your rankings compared to mine. I'll leave a link to both of these emulators in the description if you'd like to check out the changes yourself. If you liked the video, leave a like as I'll be putting out more videos soon. If you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see, leave a comment below. Other than that, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.